Ever since I uploaded my schedule for the videos I'm going to be uploading this month, you probably didn't expect me to compare Dexter's Christmas episode against Johnny Bravo's Christmas episode. Well, the biggest comparison of this was the Jimmy Neutron episode, Holly Jolly Christmas. Well, Holly Jolly Jimmy. Well, here's the reasons on to why I'm not comparing this episode to the Jimmy episode. One, I've already reviewed the Jimmy Neutron episode 2 years ago, and I still have the same opinions of it as of now. Two, even though that Jimmy and Dexter are the same character when it comes to their scientific intelligence, Jimmy didn't mean to hurt Santa no matter what. And especially the fact that he managed to actually save Christmas from being cancelled. As for Dexter, on the other hand, he completely did the opposite of what Jimmy did in the Jimmy Neutron special. Let me just express my thoughts on these two cartoons before I do the comparisons out of the way. Unlike Dexter's Laboratory, well, I remember the most of the episodes from that show, Johnny Bravo was a show that I wasn't completely interested whether it comes out of Cartoon Network. Not saying that this show was bad, it's just that it's really generic for one of the prime examples onto why I don't enjoy cartoons from the 90s. If anyone who actually enjoys the show for what it is, then that's fine. I really have no issue if you actually enjoy the show. And I will say that I can watch through some of the episodes from this show compared to the other episodes that I've talked about that I did not enjoy that much. However, at the same time, I still don't consider this show good. It's mostly generic on the fact that people completely enjoy the characters and the lines, mainly of how they act, instead of just focusing on the main plots of the story. Yes, I understand that this show isn't supposed to be taken seriously, which is something that cartoons usually are back in the 90s, but at the same time, I'm not really a 90s kid since I was born in 1998, and I was into the 2000 cartoons more than the 90s. So, why am I comparing Johnny Bravo's Christmas episode to Dexter's vs. Santa Claus episode? Well, simple. It's not about how intelligent Dexter is just like Jimmy Neutron. It's mainly about the main character beating down Santa Claus. Yeah, the idea of me comparing an episode to another about the main character taking down Santa Claus is something you don't usually expect from me to actually do, especially since that it's special. It's the type of idea that people would definitely not want to see in cartoons. I mean, live action show, if it's mostly for teenagers and adults and the execution is done better, then that's probably that can easily work out. But here, not much. Now, unlike in the Jimmy Neutron episode, well, Jimmy just isn't that harsh when it comes to understanding that Santa doesn't exist. And then when he does something bad, he tries to do a good deed by completely saying the gifts all over the world. Dexter does the same thing. However, unlike Jimmy Neutron, he knows that Santa doesn't exist. Well, Jimmy Neutron knows that Santa doesn't exist, but then again, that's basically his theory. And what Dexter's theory is that his father is dressed up as Santa Claus while his mother is as a reindeer. She's basically a reindeer. And then when Dee Dee completely denies on what Dexter thinks and actually knows that Santa does exist, this leads to Dexter taking matters into his own hands by proving to Dee Dee that Santa doesn't exist. Here's what makes this episode obviously hard to take it seriously. For one, unlike Jimmy Neutron, this episode is 7 minutes long, which, to be fair, the cartoons from the earlier generation, from the earlier years of animation, which is in the 30s or 40s, well, mainly 7 minutes long and aren't usually 11 minutes long. But compared to Jimmy Neutron, well, it's only 22 minutes. They really expect you to, they really had to squish in everything on just having Dexter face off Santa Claus in this 7-minute episode, except for the fact that they really made Dexter really unlikable for how he's just trying to prove to his prove to DT that Santa doesn't exist, despite the fact that this image alone is really Santa. Seriously, white beard, gray outfit, and the fact that it looks nothing like his father really goes to show how delusional and psychotic Dexter is in this episode. Now, to not confuse to anyone, there wasn't actually a fight in the Johnny Bravo Christmas episode Twas the Night. It only shows that Johnny woke up because he actually thought there was going to be an intruder going on in the outdoors, and he was oblivious and took down Santa because he was probably doing something terrible, even though that he was just releasing presents all over the world. And the majority of this episode is Johnny completely going all over the world to release presents, just like what Jimmy Neutron did in the Holly Jolly Jimmy episode. And I understand that this episode has not a lot of comparisons compared to the Dexter's episode, but the thing is, unlike the Dexter episode where it tries way too hard to have Dexter face off Santa, this episode is just mainly Johnny just trying to do a good deed after doing a naughty deed by completely taking down Santa. And in my opinion, even though I'm not a fan of the show, this episode actually does this concept a lot more better compared to what Dexter did in his episode. I'm just gonna point out that for the rest of the Dexter episode, it's really not even enjoyable to watch. It's not even entertaining to watch if you're really interested into seeing Santa beat down, which if you are, you're really naughty, and at this point, I honestly don't know how some people may enjoy this Christmas episode, but just seeing Dexter just trying to actually prove to Dee Dee that Santa doesn't exist by completely shaving Santa's beard off, but also removing the reindeer's antlers off of him, that really goes to show how this episode is just trying way too hard, but at the same time, it just goes way too far, making this one of the worst Christmas episodes from any other cartoon. Tell me, if you compare this to the Jimmy Neutron episode, you can really see of how much effort the Jimmy Neutron had, because I can guarantee you that the writers who wrote that episode took notes from the Dexter's Laboratory Christmas episode on not to do the same mistakes again, and they probably made some improvements in order to make Jimmy a much more likable character. Now, yes, you may kind of argue with me on the fact that I miss out of most of the stuff that Jimmy did. He was being rude to some of his friends. He completely did a lot of terrible mistakes, but at the same time, there were still mistakes. And even if they were intentional, they were nowhere near as serious and brutal of what Dexter did in this episode. Wherever you completely see Dexter just trying to prove that Santa doesn't exist, makes you really uncomfortable, and it's honestly hard to actually see of how the show's mean-spirited tone actually works. Yes, I did see reviews of it, and Star Giant Productions mentioned on the fact that the later seasons were really bad because of how mean-spirited it got. You know, for an episode that came out in the 1990s, well, social media isn't at its peak, mainly the fact that it was still in development, and the fact that some of the cartoons on Cartoon Network were considered nostalgic, and this was before Foster, Steven Universe, and Adventure Time, along with other great cartoons, came out. And I will admit that Cartoon Network had a decent decade in the 1990s, which is mainly the golden age. It doesn't excuse the fact that when you look at some of the episodes in the present, which is one of these, you can really tell that they really aged badly, to the point that if technology was like in the 1990s, like YouTube and other social media platforms actually happened in the 1990s, we will probably rant constantly how terrible this is compared to what other Christmas episodes do during that decade of cartoon animation. Heading back to Johnny Bravo, I can really tell that the humor in this and the style it has can really make a Christmas episode really entertaining. I may not be a fan of the episodes and the characters, but I can really tell that people who completely love the show is mainly from the characters' quotes and in the way that they're in these situations, while they put themselves in these situations. Mainly the comedy of this, even though that I do not enjoy it, for a 1990s episode, I can really understand and mostly forgive. I can tell that in the 1990s, when you grew up with and completely watch these episodes, even though that they mostly do not age well, they were still really good when you completely remember them at a very young age. And I can really tell that for each house that Johnny passed, to each place that Johnny stops at, can lead to really decent humor, unlike what Dexter did in Dexter vs. Santa Claus. And besides, if there's one thing that people can easily remember in any of these episodes involving Johnny Bravo, is obviously Johnny Bravo himself. Believe me, even if I don't like him, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I hate him. Besides, mostly cartoons like these, I really should not be extremely harsh and judgmental, because I did watch them before, and watching them in the present time, nothing has changed, but at the same time, nothing has gone worse. Which is probably why this cartoon is probably the most in the middle when it comes to underrated and overrated in my book. As for the cameo of Scooby-Doo from Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, I can really tell that people will pretty much get that reference, especially the fact that Johnny Bravo and Scooby-Doo had a crossover, which I did watch several times as a kid, but as of now, I'm just not into it. And besides, I've already did a reaction of Baseball Sam 1's and the Jedi Blender's crossover review of it 2 years ago, which doesn't exist because Baseball Sam's 1's channel has been terminated. And for how the show is portrayed with the characters and how Cartoon Network was at the golden age of animation in that decade, they pretty much did everything they could in order to please everyone who was a kid in the 1990s. However, when it comes to Dexter's Christmas episode, there was literally nothing to enjoy from that episode, but how mean-spirited and forced it is. Yes, I get it. Dexter's Laboratory and Johnny Bravo are completely different shows, and you can't be the same show constantly. You have to be in your own thing. However, the difference is that Dexter's Laboratory's ideal for Christmas special honestly takes to a different route that no one will probably go through when it comes to having the main character viciously beat down Santa. And don't even get me started on the message of what this episode is trying to do. Johnny Bravo didn't have a message, but at the same time, it really gave the main character some kind of consequences for nearly destroying Christmas. And in this, Dexter doesn't get any consequences for what he did to Santa in this episode. I highly doubt that any other cartoon or live action show will ever show Santa without his beard and completely have his head shaved. Do you really think that this is the type of comedy that actually kind of works for Dexter's Laboratory? No, that doesn't even work for a holiday special or an episode itself if Santa Claus was a different character that appears way often instead of one time at the end of the year. This is honestly why Jimmy Neutron is a much more better Christmas episode compared to Dexter's, for how it actually makes Jimmy a little bit more likable, while Dexter was the complete opposite. And that's for Johnny Bravo. As much as comparing this episode to the Dexter one is honestly really odd, but at the same time, when you don't usually see a lot of specials involving the main character taking down Santa Claus, You can easily watch this one compared to the Dexter one. And the same thing could be said with the Jimmy Neutron one. You can watch that one over Dexter. Seriously. I know that this video is a really odd way to do a comparison to Johnny Bravo and Dexter's Laboratory, but considering that both shows are mostly different, along with having one theme involving the main character facing off Santa Claus, even if Bravo did it really less and while Dexter did it way more, you can really tell that that minor detail really goes to show that what the people who wrote Johnny Bravo actually knows how to not cross any serious lines during the Christmas season, while Dexter, on the other hand, did. And I honestly cannot even imagine of how another Christmas special would easily top Dexter's Laboratory as the worst Christmas special if we're referring to the main character beating up Santa Claus. Okay, this was the weirdest comparison I have ever done, and this was a lot more bizarre compared to my last month's comparison. But at the same time, I need to do some different types of videos wherever I get past through each Christmas season. So my ratings of the Johnny Bravo episode: a 6.75 out of 10, and for Dexter, a 1.5 out of 10. Definitely one of the worst Christmas specials, and like I mentioned, if any other Christmas special does the same format of what Dexter did, they honestly don't know what they're getting themselves into.